Soma Talks podcast is sponsored by Coda Kitchen. Coda Kitchen, in the heart of Maplewood Village, but with a city vibe. Come check out Coda for great food and great company. Luke Finn and his team love presenting their customers with inspired and creative dishes using as much locally sorted organic produce as possible. At the bar, you'll find an assortment of craft draft beers and classic original cocktails. Lovely wines, too. Coda Kitchen, Maplewood's favorite local hangout. 177 Maplewood Avenue. Check them out. Coda Kitchen, the best. And welcome to the Soma Talks podcast, sponsored by Coda Kitchen and elevated by the Cannabis Lady and Lux 45, the lifestyle boutique. I'm Lee Navin, and once again, I am joined by the big, bad motherfucking keep on trucking, rootin', tootin', two-gun saluting, smoking, token, joking, cruising, bruising, she ain't no illusion, Ileana Castillo!
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, Ileana. Did you notice I had that memorized?
I see. Did you?
Yeah, I didn't read it at all. I looked right at you the whole time.
And I was looking down.
Yeah, so anyway, I thought that. You're looking down. I could do it again. Big, bad, sad motherfucker. Keep on trucking, rootin', two-gun saluting, smoking, token, joking, cruising, Ileana Castillo. But actually, the illusion. Anyway, you are the illusion. You are the illusion of grandeur. You look beautiful today. For those wondering what Ileana's wearing, because I do get people asking me, what is she wearing today? She is wearing a cute little mini dress, I guess we might call that.
Just wanted to dress up a little bit.
Well, you look beautiful.
Thanks.
Now, you have your keys with you, and you have your wallet with you, because... Okay. This last week, Ileana, as we were leaving the
podcast,
Ileana's keys were locked in her car, so she had to call some firemen, actually.
Yeah.
And they were very excited when they realized who they were rescuing, or what they were rescuing when they met you.
But hey, that's a good thing to tell people. Like, sometimes people, when they lock their keys inside their car, they don't think about fire or
Firemen were here in 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, less than that. They were pretty quick, actually.
Right. Yeah,
5 minutes and 2 minutes, I had my car keys.
And they were like 5 guys showed up. They all were like, and they were like the calendar, the fireman calendar. Like, they were all kind of tight shirts on, right? They were kind of, I think one guy had his shirt off, actually. You know, it was like a commercial. But they got into your car in 5 seconds and got you the keys.
Yep, I highly recommend it. That's who. Well, Sean said call the firefighters.
Sean Chalk did do that. That's right.
Yeah.
We had the former auxiliary police officer from the Maplewood Police Department with us, and he immediately said, "Call the fire department." Yeah,
yep.
He knew exactly what to do.
And they were here like in 5 minutes.
Right.
The Maplewood firefighters.
Yeah, I was going to smash your window. Remember that? I was like, "Hey, I'll get the key. Don't you worry." Yes,
Sean was trying to force the window, but it wouldn't budge. So yeah, but it was the best thing to do, call the firefighters.
It was. And then, of course, 3 days later, Ileana calls me up and says, Lee, have you seen my wallet? That was...
I did, and then the wallet.
Yeah, you left your wallet here, apparently, too. So
yeah, the wallet. I was so distracted that day. Thank God it was here in the podcast.
It was like a couple days later, so you did your business, you went about town, you
I didn't even notice. In 3 days, I didn't notice my wallet was missing. Because I usually pay with Apple Wallet, so I don't even bring out my,
Yes.
And I didn't even thought about it.
Right. So your wallet was actually here the whole time.
The whole time.
Undisturbed. Yes. Yeah, undisturbed.
Yeah.
So that was that's what it's like working with Ileana, everybody.
I know. It's true.
So Ileana, our last podcast was quite successful. We had, again, the Sean Chalk, the auxiliary cop, on. And one of the things you just mentioned to me, he had said that South Orange doesn't have an auxiliary police department. Now, on Soma Talks, Adrian Acevedo,
who is a police,
who was I guess, is he retired?
He's sergeant right now.
Oh, is he sergeant?
He's sergeant.
He's a current police officer. He said that South Orange used to have an auxiliary police force, and he actually started as an auxiliary police.
They still have it, actually.
So he said that it still kind of exists, but it's I guess it's, for whatever reason, it's not being utilized. But something to talk to Mayor Sheena Collum about. So if anyone's interested, perhaps, in pursuing something like this, maybe reach out to the mayor's office.
That's not a bad idea. These were his words exactly. He was like, for the record, South Orange did in fact have reserve auxiliary police officers. I was one. This was in the 90s. We were not armed. I will say, even going back to the 90s, Maplewood was known across the state as having the best auxiliary police program. If you were going to create a reserve police force, you would want to use their model as a template. That was really good. And I think Sean did say that everybody would come to Maplewood because they had the best auxiliary program.
And that's what and Acevedo said that too. Acevedo said it was a well-run, well-organized. Again, crime is up. Inflation is up. The economy isn't what it used to be. Jobs are harder to find. I mean, look,
For the record.
And we have less police, so that's just something that I think everybody who's tunes in ought to just say to themselves, how do we fix it? How do we make that better? Well...
But the difference with South Orange, that the auxiliary police program still exists. Like in Maplewood, they stopped it, but in South Orange, it's still...
Right, so apparently, again, perhaps something to...
The problem is that Acevedo said that the volunteer has gone down, so it kind of died down, and that's why they don't...
Right, it's not promoted and whatnot, or...
But the trustees and the mayor, they haven't blocked it. Hey, that's a really good, see?
So what we should do is not only mention in this podcast, but maybe we'll go on to like the Soma Parents site, and you can tag everyone... and let them know, because I love that Soma Parents site is different than Soma Talks.
It's a different vibe, completely different vibe.
A lot of young people moved here. They see Soma Parents. They sign up for it. They have young kids, and I'll tell you, parents with young kids generally tend to be snotty. They're snottier than us older folk that have older kids. They come to town. They're snotty. One guy, and I don't want to say his name because it's not right. His last name kind of, well, it's another word for icky. It's a kind of another word for, if you let's say, you opened up your computer and you saw your husband was looking at porn, you might be like, oh my God, that's... So I'm not going to say his last name, but you know what I'm thinking about. So anyway, this guy, out of all the, writes, I wish you would stop tagging me. Like you're tagging him personally when you write tagging everybody on our podcast because you're promoting our product. You're promoting something that you've put a lot of time and effort into. And of course, you got like 15 likes or whatever because everybody's so angry and so important and they've got so much to do. They don't have time to be tagged on a product that you spent a lot of time putting together and you would like to share with the audience that you built up through your Soma Parents Facebook page.
No, I agree. To be fair, I get it that it could be quite annoying that every week someone is tagging you something. But people have to understand the two things. One, doing a podcast is not as easy as you think.
This is a lot of work. And
it's a lot of work.
We want to share it with the community. We're not doing this so no one listens.
We're not getting paid for this.
No.
Like anything that comes in goes straight to the podcast.
Right, exactly right. Yeah, we're trying to build a brand here. And, you've built these sites. You're the moderator. It's your site. It's your... One guy says, it's not a site, it's a group. I'll tell you, whatever it is, it's her group. She can do what she wants. So, of course, the guy drops out of the group just to put on a little show, because I spoke out to him and I said, you know what? I go, you're being rude. Knock it off, pal.
He was being rude. I thought it was kind of already out there that the Soma Talk podcast is it's an umbrella for Soma Talks and Soma Parents. I thought they're all involved,
right?
And I'm not an outsider promoting something. No. And this belongs to Soma Parents and Soma Talks. I mean, I'll stop doing it. I get it. There's a feature that you can...
You can block it personally so I don't get tagged by...
Yeah,
But this guy and whatever, to me it's like, I walk into the supermarket and at ShopRite and I say, all customers and in produce we have a deal on blah,
and then
blah,
someone
blah.
says like, okay.
It's like, oh my God, I'm not going to produce. Why would you go ahead and include me in that message? That to me is basically what this guy was complaining about. Now, of course, he had like 15 likes. So I always do this. Whenever I see something that I don't like, and I see like a bunch of likes or whatever, I'll always look to see who's liking it. And there's this one woman that liked it. By the way, anything that goes against you or goes against Soma Talks or goes against anything that has to do with us and me too. This woman,
I know who she is. She's a
serial hater.
She's a Soma Justice, folks.
Yeah, she's a serial hater.
Someone told me.
Yeah. Oh, so
it's really easy to know.
Right. So I know her. So here's the thing.
Oh, you know her?
I know of her. And I know her husband, and her husband hates Soma Talks so much that he used to go onto his own Facebook page to bitch about Soma Talks, calling it the fascist site of Maplewood, whatever. So anyway. I've known this guy since the Maplewood Online days, and he's
we're going way back.
Yeah, and he's a nerd. He's a huge nerd. But so here's the thing, and I probably shouldn't be talking about this, but I don't care because you know what? He plays guitar, and he's a pretty good guitar player. But when he's on stage, he looks really goofy. He looks like Pee Wee Herman on stage. He wears like a boy band hat, and
I don't know him.
So anyway. and again, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So he's currently playing in a band. It's the Sarah Hod Band. Do you know the Sarah Hod Band?
No.
Well, the Sarah Hod Band, they play locally. Actually, they were supposed to play at Maple Woodstock, but they because of rain, they weren't able to. So I wanted to go on to Sarah Hod's face. I want to make fun of the band. So I go onto her page, the Sarah Hod, and she is knock dead. She's beautiful. This is look at this Sarah Hod. She is just a sexy woman, and right, that's a very attractive woman. And when I don't you agree?
No, she's very beautiful. She's pretty.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I start listening to her music. Here's her music. She's beautiful. The band is great. So now I'm frustrated because I really wanted to make fun of this guy, and I really wanted to make fun of his wife for doing what they did by liking something that was against us. But you know what? The Sarah Hod Band is pretty hot. For those of you, check them out. You can see him in the background. You see with the boy band hat, he's kind of dancing a little funny. He's like a little goofy, but he's a good guitar player.
Are they from South Orange?
Yeah, I guess they're made with South Orange. Yeah, but she is. I listened to a couple anyway. So now I'm a Sarah Hod fan. The guitar player. Perhaps you should replace it.
Haven't you learned already that in every local group you're going to have fans and you're going to have haters? That's fact. What do you think? Soma Lounge doesn't have their haters? Don't you think Maplewood Moms don't have their haters? Don't you think Soma Justice have their haters? You think Soma Talk's not going to be? You think we're going to be the exception? Of course not.
Well, I like lovers. That's just me. And I happen to be a fantastic lover too. By the way, Ileana, I don't know if you knew that.
No.
My wife told me that when I was like 22. She hasn't mentioned it since, but I think she still feels that way.
You know what's strange that I found? I found like the candidates that are running for the Board of Ed, they're really quiet. I'm not seeing a lot of buzz. What's going on there?
As a matter of fact, in just a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, we have James Davis coming in from the Black Parents Workshop, and very interesting topic. Maybe
I should ask him about that.
And I wanted to talk to him about the candidates. Have they reached out to him? Have they? He's so involved with the Board of Ed.
But haven't you noticed they've been quiet? I haven't heard anything.
Maybe in September things really start to ratchet up a little bit.
I don't know. You only have 2 months, August, September, to put yourself out there.
You would think that they would be
Aaron and Vladimir already have an advantage because they're already in the Board of Ed.
They're the incumbents.
Yeah, and the new ones, Jenny Bennett, he's already been allowed there because he ran last year, but the other ones gotta step it up.
To new candidates running for office, and Ileana and I understand this. We've both run for office before. We both lost, but nevertheless, the reason we lost was because we were running against candidates that were better known in the community. So
Correct.
That's the key thing. You need, and this was said to me actually by, I spoke, when I was running years ago, I spoke at a congregation. They invited me to speak because they liked what I had to say about a lot of topics. And the rabbi said to me afterwards, he said, the problem is because no one knows you. And I said, what are you talking about? Everybody knows you. He says, maybe your friends know you, some people online know you, but he goes, basically, the powers that be don't know you.
That's true.
So you got to get your name out there. And 9 times out of 10, when some people show up to the polling place, for Board of Ed stuff especially.
Yeah, if they see a name, they'll vote for that name they recognize.
If they see a name they recognize, they're going to vote for the name. So it's really important name brand. That's why these lawn signs, as much as people find them annoying, and they're important.
The lawn signs does help. I have to admit it.
Yeah, even subconsciously, someone drives by a sign constantly that says DeLuca, or Daffis. They might say, they go and I recognize that name, Dean Daffis.
I understand when you say it's too early, it's still in November. Yeah, this is the time to put your name out there that people can start be familiar with your name when they see it. I'd have the slide of Jeff Bennett. I haven't heard from them.
No, right. And Bennett, hopefully he comes back on again. We tried to record.
Actually, I haven't heard none of them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because it's a quiet week, the end of August, people are on vacation and whatnot. But
school starting.
I would hope that these Board of Ed members don't follow what the Maplewood candidates did in not wanting to go on the podcast, not wanting to expose themselves. I still think, and I'm going to tell Jermaine Cripe next time I see her, and I'm friends with her on Facebook. And
she's not going to come.
Yeah, but I feel she had come on. I think she could have won the election just by coming on and explaining the situation that she had. Because you know what? I know people that know. Everyone says she's a nice woman. Everybody said the Israeli thing, and she didn't understand what was going on there, which so many people don't.
I
not to
personally
hold it
don't
against
like her. I don't like how she came across.
Yeah.
She insulted me online, but that's me personal.
Yeah,
For other people, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I've insulted you online, and so look what you did to me. You made me do a podcast with you for forever and ever.
No,
and ever.
she insulted me pretty bad.
Yeah. Now look, you know what? I hear you on that. It's not easy having an opinion. You have an opinion. I have an opinion. So we're gonna get slapped around occasionally.
No, she went hard on me, hardcore.
Yeah. Well, look, she lost, and there were
we're
a lot of
talking
people.
about the other.
But now we're talking about Board of Ed. So
I think half of them will come. The other half might not because, like I said, there's some local groups that prohibit people to join our podcast, so they don't want to tiptoe around them. So unfortunately, I know they're not going to come, but I'm hoping the other half that don't give a fuck like us will say, fuck you, I'm going to come, and they come.
That group is getting
Sorry about cursing, guys, but it's
that group is getting less and less powerful. I think people are starting to see right through them. They, they're building a brand for themselves, and
everybody's
that's what they're
building
doing.
their brand, and I get that. But
and we're doing the same thing. We're building a brand for ourselves, but the difference is that I'm not going to feign that my interest is the community. The community is number one. The community is important, but I want people to listen to the fucking podcast. They want people to join their site, or their group, or whatever it is. It's how Americans react to life. We have to build ourselves up.
Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that hear this. Yesterday I was at Coda, and someone came up and was like, "Oh, do you have a podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, how did you know?" Like, people were talking about it in the bar at Coda, and I'm like, "Oh, really great."
No, we're definitely getting attention. Yes, there's no doubt about it. A matter of fact, the article. Did you see the article that was written about us?
I did. That was a very nice, really cute article.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right.
I cannot believe they beat Village Green.
Yeah, right.
You would think Village Green would get us first because they're local.
Mary Man, I've known you forever. I mean,
and we put their name out there a lot.
Yeah. No,
and they're not our sponsor, for the record.
No. I think we have a bigger audience than Village Green does. To tell you the truth,
Oh, did you find out that where Arturo was, they opened that establishment?
Which place?
Where Arturo was in that corner.
Oh, Arturo's. Yeah, the new restaurant.
Yeah, the Hosteria LK. They had a
soft opening.
Because yesterday I was at Coda having an early dinner with San John Sarantakis, and I saw people there, and I was like, "Are they open?"
Yeah,
and it looks like it's a soft opening. Yeah.
So that's great for Maplewood Village. There's a new restaurant in town across from. Now, what you do is you go over there, you look at the menu, then cross the street.
They do not have liquor license, though.
Yeah, so you got to go to Coda. So that's
gotta go. Yeah.
But no, you know what? I'm sure Luke Finn would tell us that there's nothing wrong with having healthy, vibrant businesses across the street from his.
No, I think they welcome it because they're completely different. I think they go more the Italian side.
Yeah, it's an Italian
Luke is more
restaurant.
like American kind of style.
Right. But that's good. The more people that travel to Maplewood Village, the better
more
it is
their names out there. Totally agree.
I mean, it's not uncommon for the guys who are at the gate, who run St. James Gate, to come over to Coda and have a dinner. I mean, they that's what they do. They all share
or have
each other's success.
Drink at Coda and then go across and go to
share each other's success. But anyway, so this article was in it's the article in the magazine In the Vicinity.
Never heard about that magazine, but apparently it's a magazine in Essex County.
Yeah, they cover Essex County, right? Exactly right. It's pretty big. They're very large. This one covers quite a few towns. And
how did they know about us?
Well, the writer her
lives
name,
at Maplewood.
No, she doesn't live in Maplewood. She lives in Livingston, actually. And I've just known her. She's known me for years. She's aware of my comedy. She wrote an article about my book when it came out, by the way, a while back. And she just reached out to us and said, "Hey, Lee, I listened to the podcast. I was blown away, by how cool you guys are." So she asked if she can do an article. So. Thank you to Jackie Jackie Chattel. I knew her as Jackie Goldman. I guess Jackie Goldman was her maiden name. That's her married name. So, it was. She Lee with a background in comedy. Ileana, a bilingual school teacher, blend humor, insight, and a deep understanding of their community's needs. I couldn't agree more. How about you, Ileana?
I agree.
Yeah, I think she hit it right on the head.
I got to learn better my English. Someone was putting out, like, your verbs are so horrible. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah, you know what? We could. Matter of fact, you walked
the past tense, I really messed up. I mess up a lot of my past tense.
Well, that's all right. English isn't your first language. Matter of fact, Ileana walked into the podcast studio. I had to sit her for 10 minutes while she was talking on the phone in Spanish to someone. Who were you talking to?
That was my cousin. I was talking to my cousin. We always talk in Spanish.
Yeah, you were saying something about your house, I noticed, because mi casa, right?
Yeah, my house, I did.
Yeah,
Look at you.
Right, yeah, well, I learned that in Pulp Fiction, mi casa, you know. Remember that? But anyway, yeah, so that's maybe, so perhaps just talk to your cousin in English. Maybe that could help with the verbs and the past tenses and the.
I try my best. I really do. I'm getting better a little bit.
Yeah, no, you speak beautifully. And matter of fact, someone told me that your English is endearing. Matter of fact, that's what somebody said to me.
Endearing?
Yeah.
Whoever said that, thank you.
Yeah.
Who was that? Who was that? Don't say it.
It's my son.
Oh, really?
By the way, my son Eli helps us produce this podcast.
Yeah,
He's a very talented audio guy. Very so because sometimes we'll need to cut down or something is said we need to edit out, and he does a beautiful job with this.
Endearing, I like that. I'll take that. I like endearing. Actually.
So when people tell us, "Guy, you guys sound really professional," well, thank you. Number one, we try to, but we also
you sound professional. I sound endearing.
You sound endearing. No one's ever told me I sound endearing. Annoying, loud mouth, then shut the fuck up, talks too much. But
someone came up to me and said that they liked my laugh. I was like, my laugh is so horrible.
Yeah, no, I think you got a great laugh. Yeah, it's. Let me see if I can get you to laugh right now. Let me see. Oh, there you go. I didn't even do anything. You laughed.
Stop.
Right. Yeah. So
we got to get ourselves ready because our new. I'm looking forward to hear this.
Yeah. So James Davis is coming with a guest.
Yeah, we got him again.
He's coming with a guest. So the podcast studio was designed for 3 people. We're gonna have 4 here. So we need to kind of organize ourselves a little bit. So. We're going to take a short break. We got we got a short. Our sponsors going to we ad from our sponsors that we pre-recorded. Listen to those. Listen to that, and because there are discounts available. By the way, if you listen to the ad, you will get a discount.
And both.
Right. So it's important that you listen so you get the discount. So all right. So we'll be back in just a minute with the Soma Talks podcast.
In other words, you plan on arguing on the internet all night?
Yes.
Elevated by the Cannabis Lady. Owner Jill Cohen is passionate about cannabis. Her dispensary caters to those with a refined taste and believe that cannabis can transform lives into an elevated experience when properly used. The plants with their healing benefits bring happiness while lowering anxiety, pain, and many other symptoms. Elevated by the Cannabis Lady offers a 5-star experience that starts with a friendly environment and highly trained bud tenders ready to guide every customer on their journey. Jill and her team are committed to a higher level of wellness. Check out the Cannabis Lady at 9 Highland Place, downtown Maplewood. Tell them Lee and Ileana from the Soma Talks podcast sent you, and you'll get a 20% discount. Make sure you mention that. You want that discount. The Cannabis Lady. She will elevate you. And welcome back to the Soma Talks podcast. I'm Lee Navlin. Again, I'm with Ileana Castillo, my partner in crime.
Yeah.
And we have our very special guest with us, Mr. James Davis from the Black Parents Workshop.
Welcome back.
James, thank you. And James has...
He loves us.
James does love... someone has to love us. It's like,
someone, right?
Right. So, yeah, James Davis, that's it. Yeah, we have one fan in James Davis. But, James, thank you again. This is your second appearance on the podcast. We really do appreciate you coming back to share what's going on with you, with the Black Parents Workshop. You have brought along with you Vicky Johnson. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, Vicky Johnson has been to the Soma Board of Ed meetings where she made some impassioned pleas to the board to help her granddaughter who has dealt with a lot of issues at Columbia High School. And Ileana and I saw the clip. We were blown away. Ileana spoke to James, and James said, well, he says, I'm actually working with the family, seeing what I can do to help the child. So anyway, so again, both of you, thank you both for coming this afternoon.
Sure.
Yeah.
James, I guess before we get started, Black Parents Workshop, you were heavily involved. You've had a lot of your hands are in different, trying to help black students. You've had pushback. You've had pushback as a
little bit.
Okay. Is there now? What's the latest with the Sanchez situation?
Any updates?
Any
Correct.
updates? Yeah, before we get to Vicky, is there anything new going on there? He's back. He's the principal again. I'm surprised. I didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah, so from a case perspective, there's two cases. There's the criminal case, which there is still a misdemeanor charge outstanding for Mr. Sanchez.
That's with the prosecutor.
That's with the prosecutor. It's
okay.
now with the municipal court because of the misdemeanor status.
Correct.
There is also a child services investigation, which is still ongoing.
Got it.
We control none of that. Our case is a civil case, and the status of that is on July 2nd, we submitted to the school district what is called a notice of claim. A notice of claim is required whenever someone wants to sue or giving a heads up to sue a public entity, like a school district, like a town.
Oh, okay.
This is a legal requirement that you give the public entity a heads up that a lawsuit may be coming.
Okay.
And so by law, we cannot submit a complaint until 6 months after that notice of claim.
Got
Now,
it.
we can negotiate with the school district ahead of time if they so choose to do so.
Do you think they want to negotiate after you guys did that in July?
I can't really speak to that.
Have they respond back?
They're not required
They're
to.
not okay.
No. We're just required to submit the claim to them. Now, just to be honest with you, although the Sanchez issue has garnered all the attention, our case is really not about Sanchez. It's about the student's treatment with respect to her special education status,
Got it.
which is a long and, I'll just say, sordid experience. And so it just so happened that Mr. Sanchez was involved, last March 2023 with that interaction that they had. Now, some of that has to do with how she was treated afterwards with respect to her special education status and the rights and privileges that she is supposed to have. But if you had a 10-part list of things we had to demonstrate and prove, Sanchez is like 5.2.
Which student are we talking about, Miss?
This
The
is
other
student,
one.
yes.
Correct.
Miss Johnson's granddaughter is not my legal client per se. It's somewhat of a nuance, but I'm pretty much helping them out like an advocate would.
Okay.
I just happen to be an attorney too.
I'm kind of seeing a little pattern here.
What do you
Mr.
mean?
Sanchez, the first student, like with her IEP and the way Sanchez treated her, and now with Mrs. Johnson's granddaughter case, there's a little. I'm feeling like there's a small little pattern going on here.
Well, I don't want to make it like this is all about him. Again, this is really.
It's not him only. He's part of the situation because there's other staff and the school district and everything. It's a chain reaction.
This is more of a failure of the system of the special education department at the South Orange Maplewood School District. He's part of that, but so are a bunch of other people.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So I don't want to make it like he's the only.
No.
I do want to be fair about that.
Ileana, why don't we do this? We have the clip of Vicky Johnson speaking at the Board of Ed meeting. So we're gonna play that for the audience. I guess they give you 3 minutes to speak, right? So it's about a 3-minute clip. So you listen to Vicky. What she had to say was words. Why don't we just play the clip? So here it is.
My name is Vicky Johnson. I've been living in South Orange for over 30 years. I attended 3 board meetings to express my disgust and horrible neglect by the South Orange Maplewood School District concerning the lack of educational services for my granddaughter as a minority IEP student. Mr. Taylor stated at one of these meetings that my granddaughter would be given educational and psychological needs evaluated by the school district. Of course, that was not done. Now, to summarize the events, during 2022 school year, she was given marijuana brownies by several students while at Columbia and taken to St. Barnabas Hospital. Upon returning back to school, several students continued to physically and psychologically harass her at school. No action was taken by Mr. Taylor or Mr. Sanchez. no psychological counseling, and they continue to fail my granddaughter by not meeting her basic needs for safety and security. We, as the parents, recommended to the district that she receive instruction, home instruction. She was taken out of Columbia because of the hostile, unsafe, unhealthy environment and given limited home instruction. Again, a complete failure by the district. The home instructor never received any communication about mandated core subjects from the IEP superintendent or the Columbia teachers. She was supposed to be transferred to an out-of-district school, but the IEP department never completed the process. And now she's been out of school for over a year and a half. Yes, I'm repeating it, over a year and a half. We requested several meetings with the IEP department superintendent and supervisor without any resolution. And therefore we reached out to Mr. Davis for advice. Mr. Davis recommended and implemented an action plan that included, number one, enrollment for my granddaughter in the accredited summer school program based on academic and emotional support. Secondly, enrollment in the accredited school for the fall, and she received individual therapy sessions for several months. I am recommending the special education department implement new IEP protocols by becoming more proactive and preventing these incidents from occurring again for all our students. Thank you. Any questions?
That was Vicky Johnson, again, discussing the situation with her granddaughter with the Soma Board of Ed. Now, Vicky is here with us. Vicky, why don't you share a little bit more with our audience? Tell us a little bit about what brought you to the situation where you felt the need to stand up in front of the community, and why don't you discuss your granddaughter and the situation that she's living through?
Okay, so right now, back in December of 2022, my granddaughter had a very terrible experience at Columbia High School, where she was given lace brownies with marijuana by students. And she was taken to St. Barnabas Hospital, received treatment, and there was no follow-up by the school district at that time with any reaching out for any counseling or even any follow-up with her, even through her parents. And then when she returned back to school, she was continually being harassed physically and emotionally by students. And again, this was reported to the administration. There was no intervention for her at that time. So we decided as the parents and grandparents to ask for home instruction. Okay, we requested home instruction. When we requested the home instruction, there was no coordination of care as far as her receiving her core subjects through the special education department. They failed her tremendously. It was unbelievable. It was disgusting. You can't even imagine the emotional trauma that she has suffered since this. So there was no coordination of her core subjects. The home instructor didn't receive anything from the special education administrators there or the Columbia teachers, which they should be working together as a team. That never happened. As far as her receiving home instruction, the home instructor on her own had to give her subject matters from her own lesson plans, which were not for a high school student. So for a year and a half, and I want to emphasize that, I always do, a year and a half, my granddaughter was homeschooled without the appropriate learning plan. And so just think about that psychologically. She's isolated, she's alone, she's not with her peers, she's not interacting with any type of teachers that have the knowledge base to help her, and it was really tremendous, and it caused a lot of trauma, not only for my granddaughter, but also for her parents and also for myself as her grandmother.
Sure.
So after we went through that process, a year and a half, we also during that time did have some meetings with special education staff, but there was no resolution to the meetings. They just yesed us and then said, we'll get back to you, which they never did. So we decided that that the next recommendation would be for her to attend an out-of-district school. Well, they kept putting us on hold with that. We wanted to visit schools. We wanted to give a list of schools. Nothing was done with that. There was no coordination of care as far as that was concerned. And we also heard through a reputable source that they had no intention of putting her in out-of-school.
Why was that? Why didn't they want to put her in out-of-school?
Because they really didn't care.
Now, your granddaughter has an IEP.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My granddaughter has an IEP.
She has an
has a
IEP.
special.
So right off the bat, you would think that there would be more. You
Yes.
would have more services available
That's
to you,
right.
or at the very least,
Yeah,
you
more
know.
supportive services for her, more coordination of care, more emotional support. And that was the other thing. She never received any psychological counseling through all this trauma that she experienced.
What did Mr. Sanchez do about this? But she's in Columbia High School, your granddaughter, correct?
Right.
Okay. And did he?
Well, he was one of the first ones to yes you to death. To say he's going to do this, but there was never any resolution. Even when I attended the board meeting, Mr. Taylor at the time, he even said, okay, we're going to get this resolved, we're going to follow up on that. Nothing was done. The only action that was taken was when Mr. Davis, as the advocate, came in, thank God, as the advocate, and helped us. And what he did was he reached out. He advised us about getting a school. And also he advised us for the summer, my granddaughter, thank God, was in appropriate high school. During the summer, she received academic and emotional support during that time. And then also for the September fall period, she's going to be attending a special school that Mr. Davis had recommended and advised us about. And also, as Mr. Davis, as the advocate, also helped us with giving her some psychological counseling for a short period of time.
So you're telling me that without Mr. Davis, your granddaughter would have had none of the...
Nothing.
What do you say, Mr. Davis?
Your daughter is how old now? And
My daughter, this is
granddaughter, your granddaughter. I
My
apologize, your
granddaughter.
yes,
That's okay.
yes.
This is the other thing that's important. She's 18, so you know.
And she's in her senior year right now, or
She's supposed to be in the senior, and that was the other issue. We never got any report cards or any follow up about her academic progress.
Oh, really? None of that?
Nothing. We received nothing.
during the homeschool instruction period, which was how
Nothing.
long was she in homeschool instruction?
A year and a half.
A year and a half.
So starting her sophomore year in theory through the junior year, and here we are.
Nothing.
And-
Nothing. Can you
and-
imagine?
Did she start school this year in September?
She is. Yes, because
Oh.
of Mr. Davis.
In
Well,
another
thank you
another
for
school
that, James.
district.
That's,
Okay.
Yes.
that's a good feeling for you, James. It's again, it's you need advocates, and
Yes, and he's an excellent advocate.
you need
for-
right
Yeah.
sometimes
Yes.
because. And I know people will say, James, you with the hammer, but I think this is a case where the hammer was necessary.
James, I know you want to jump in. What do you have to say about this case?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Ms. Johnson for agreeing to come in.
Yes,
When
very
you
much.
asked
Thank
me
you
to
for
come
coming.
back on, I felt it was important to have a real life person come in and
There's a lot of people
speak.
that have issues. You're not the only one.
Well, to be quite frank with you, most of the people that I work with never make the Village Green or the news.
That's right.
And why is that?
Because
It's easy
we
to
do,
sweep under the rug.
They don't want them to know.
we do things behind the scenes, and one, not everyone wants to be out front.
That's true. Some
And
people want to keep
and the people
anonymous.
that generally are out front don't do it voluntarily. It's just a matter of circumstance. People believe that Black Parents Workshop or me or whatever are out to sue the school district at every turn. Black Parents Workshop has filed exactly one lawsuit against the school district in 2018. We settled in 2020. Black Parents Workshop did not get any money from that lawsuit. What we got was, and what we asked for was, Dr. Fergus to come in, analyze the school district, provide some recommendations, and that's exactly what is happening
Right.
now. We had 3 plaintiffs, all of which received some compensation. Not all of them were even Black. So the misconceptions that are around are primarily caused by people who don't choose to really either listen or ask me a question.
James, getting back, there was a letter, as you know, that was published, signed by, I believe it was 70 parents of Black children. what frustrated me about that letter, and who authored it? We still don't know who authored it. Did you ever figure out who wrote this anonymous letter that was signed for some reason by?
Let me tell you about that letter, Lee.
Yeah, because they kind of threw you under the bus.
It was very antagonistic, and it was an attempt to.
They did.
I think it was supposed to be a quote unquote hit piece, but all it really did was make people interested in what we do as an organization, what I do.
Good.
So just to give you some background, with Ms. Johnson, for example, someone I know saw her speak at a board meeting, and I believe they reached out to her and said, "You need to reach out to James Davis." That's how I got to know her.
Gotcha.
Now, I've been called an ambulance chaser and some other things, but I'll be, again, most, if not 99.99% of what I know is unsolicited information.
Look, they're more profitable ambulances to chase than, the guy slipping in the middle of the street. That's profitable. Yes. This is hard work and...
Yeah.
And I met Ms. Johnson, her daughter, and her granddaughter right about the time I was contemplating transitioning careers, in a sense, to full-time law firm that I would run.
Okay.
Which has now been completed.
Okay.
Congratulations.
So I now have
my own.
Yeah, congratulations.
And what it does is it provides me more time to help people like Ms. Johnson, because I actually get more enjoyment in getting people like Ms. Johnson, her family, to a point of some type of resolution. I'm not going to call it positive because of the experience they went through, but some resolution to what they're going through. And, as an advocate, quote unquote, I'm basically just trying to set up and facilitate conversations with people that need to know, I know the policies, I know the law, I know the procedure. So if you're going to tell me something that's incorrect, you better be ready to be questioned, pressure tested, and scrutinized. And it doesn't mean I do that in the Village Green. It means I do it face to face.
Right. As you told us, actually, this was after the letter came out. Ileana had sent you some questions, and you responded to them in written form. When you talked about the signatures, you said, looking down the list, you said these were people of means in a lot of cases. They were lawyers, perhaps doctors. These are people had money.
Some of them were Board of Ed.
They could call up, and someone's going to take their phone call. You seem to be helping people who they're not returning phone calls. They can't hire the most expensive attorney.
Right.
Vicky, is that what you found?
Yes.
As you can hear from Ms. Johnson's story, she was being ignored.
Yes.
And why is that? We come from a community that I believe has some great opportunities to be like no other community. If we just stop ignoring the people who don't have the connections, who don't have the titles, who don't have the whatever other nepotism and cronyism or other isms that are out there. And myself, where I come from, you help everybody.
Right. No, Ileana, because she had the same issue. We started this podcast. Now everybody takes her phone call, right? That's the podcast.
I don't know about that.
That's why we started the podcast, so we could get in all seriousness.
In my case, I do appreciate you doing what you're doing because as a single mom and having 2 kids in the school district, I don't have the money to hire a lawyer.
Right.
Like if I have a case, like I've called you, like, hey, what do you think? You have given me your advice freely. Right. Other people would be giving me like $400 to give me the advice you've given. I don't have that money. Right. I really don't. And how can I confront the whole system of the school district by myself? I don't have $10,000 to $15,000 to throw it out. I don't.
It's not
so
right.
People like you, I appreciate you doing what you're doing because like people like me and like Miss Johnson, we can advocate for those kids that parents can't afford that. And I appreciate that. You know how many parents I know, like, I sued the district. Well, of course, you got $20,000 in the pocket. That was easy. Right. I can't do that. No. I didn't even know you were suing them.
Or
but
threaten, or at least get in front of them and say, hey, you know who I am? And, 9 times out of 10, They took James's call because they know that you mean business. You know, Vicky, they're not taking your call because they're like, well, like, you know, we swept her.
Yeah, but look how they listened to her case.
But because
as soon as James came in, things changed. Okay.
Yes.
But she tried by herself. She went 3 times to the board of ed,
Right.
and what did
No
it do?
resolution, nothing.
Taylor said yes, and what did he do?
Sanchez
Nothing.
said yes, nothing. Nothing was done.
I'll give. There's an attorney that works for the school district named Douglas Silvestro. He's the special education attorney. He's been very helpful. I found him to be very candid, very upfront. And I think because of that, we were able to come to the resolution that we came to. Now, I do have other people helping me. I'm not going to name them all right now.
Okay.
No, you don't
I don't
need
do
to.
this all by myself.
Right.
But I've been able to, quote unquote, recruit
Okay, good.
some pretty reliable folks over the years to assist me. I'm not an educator. I don't pretend to be.
I feel like this is your calling. Maybe you should change career and be a lawyer for,
Well, that's what I'm doing now.
Oh, you're going to go full time?
So if you go to
You like this.
if you go to the website
Okay.
CALLDAC.com, calldac.com, you will see my big head picture with some legalistic words and some contact information. I've worked in corporate America.
What's that website again? It's
CallDAC.
CallDAC.com.
Yeah.
Okay, CallDAC.com. That's James Davis's new firm. For those parents out there that are struggling, getting answers, perhaps
school district.
Mr. Davis can help you there.
So, I mean, just historically, I've been an attorney for, I'll just say a long time. I cut my teeth in the government and in corporate America as an in-house lawyer. So I've done a lot of different disciplines, employment law, compliance, marketing, contracts. I've done it all. And so during COVID, like everybody else, I kind of was wondering what I wanted to do with my life and that kind of thing. And it was actually my wife that said to me, why not just represent people that you always represent on your own anyway, in your quote-unquote free time?
Right.
And it kind of just stuck with me. And I said, can I make this work? And so, again, about the time I met Ms. Johnson, I was kind of going through the pros and cons of it and things like that.
I have a lot of questions with Ms. Johnson because she mentioned several things that I have a daughter that is going to start Columbia High School.
God bless you.
I know. And I am very nervous.
You should be.
The fact that you mentioned that your daughter was drugged, that's a red flag for me.
My granddaughter, yes.
That's a red flag. And I was telling Lee the other day, I work in Elizabeth School District, and I have to give them props that for middle school, they look into their bags. The students open their bag, they look in to make sure there's nothing going on, and then they leave. How is that drugs are in that school just like nothing? Like seriously.
So let's go. Yeah, that's a good point. So your daughter was a granddaughter was a freshman at the time, or a sophomore, I guess, when
Right,
there was
sophomore.
a brownie,
Yeah.
like a pot
Right,
brownie.
right.
So was it a kid said, "Oh, here, share my dessert."
Yeah, that's what they said. Just like you would say, here, would you like to taste a brownie? I have some extra cookies of brownie. So
But they didn't tell her that it had
No,
pot.
of course they
Yeah.
didn't tell her. Because what they wanted, and of course, everything, I want to see they want to video everything. So that's what it was all about. I want to see her reaction after we give her this brownie, how she's going to freak out.
So they had it on the
They were recording it and
TikTok or the
everything.
camera or
Yeah,
whatever.
the TikTok, yeah.
Really? They made it public?
Well, I don't know if they made it public, but that was the
the
goal.
intent.
That was the intent.
You're right.
Oh.
Perhaps
right.
they thought better afterwards.
That's endangering her life right
Oh
there.
yeah, when I got to the emergency room, she was out of it. She didn't even know who I was.
Scary.
Are we sure that it was even pot? Like, you don't know what was in that brownie.
No, I know. We don't know. And her blood pressure shot up.
Yeah.
She could have had a stroke at her age.
Yeah.
This was very, very dangerous. Very, extremely dangerous.
And she'd been completely honest with her family. She said, "I didn't take it on my own. I didn't want to."
No, and the important part was that there was a couple other students there that they did the same thing to. So it wasn't that she's just
Wasn't
making
just
this
her.
and yeah,
So there was the proof that they were being right. And a brownie's a very easy thing to drug because who want a cookie or a brownie? Gee, thank you.
Yeah,
You're trying to be
yeah.
my friend. You're offering me dessert. I'm a young kid. I'm
right.
naive, and so obviously, so that happens. she's home from the hospital. I guess at that point you have to have a serious conversation with her and say,
Right.
what happened?
Right.
Well,
And that's
I
what she
would think
explained.
that the school would punish whoever gave her the brownie. Did they did anything
Well,
about
when
that?
we kept inquiring about it, they kept telling us, of course, privacy, confidentiality.
Yeah,
we
of
can't
course,
tell you, but they did receive some disciplinary action. Okay. Now, my granddaughter also told me that maybe a couple of days later, when she went back to school, she saw the kids. So, what kind of disciplinary action?
I don't think they do that. That's a question for you,
Purposely
Mr.
drugging
David.
somebody, it should be expulsion. I mean,
Why?
I mean that should be the end of your school career.
Right.
You drug somebody.
Why do they never do anything? They always said, like Miss Johnson said, like, oh, confidentiality, we will take some measures. But then the next day you see the kid there. Like, I don't think they do take measures. And I tell you, not from Miss Johnson, but as a mom, I've experienced that my daughter one time, a kid threatened her to kill her.
Oh, God.
And they called me, and the kid was there 2-3 days later.
Yeah.
And then the other day, my daughter last year told me that she felt uncomfortable that a guy was super high in the cafeteria.
Oh, my God.
It was they're like, they don't do much. Like, why?
Yeah, here's the challenge with that, right? Because there are some pretty significant privacy regulations when it comes to students. However, as a parent, when something happens to your student,
You want?
you want to know if something was taken care of.
They never tell you.
They don't. And so what people like me do is look for the signs. So for example, there are certain regulations that require reporting, like HIB, for example. So if you file an HIB, there are a couple of things that should be happening. Number one, there should be an investigation that should last no more than 10 days.
Correct.
And HIB, as I just learned, because I asked you right before the podcast,
Correct.
harassment, intimidation, bullying.
Correct.
Yes, sorry about that. I will say this, not just for South Orange Maplewood School District. For most school districts, the 10-day rule is hardly ever complied with, okay? The other thing is what you'll hear, let me give an example. I was watching a board meeting where a gentleman who was Jewish was talking about his son being called a Jewish epithet slur, which I won't repeat here. And he filed an HIB. The HIB was investigated. I'm not sure if the 10-day rule was met, but it came back unfounded. Okay. Now, the circumstances were that, yes, the kid said it, but out of the 5 components of what proves an HIB, let's say component number 4, which is the learning environment was not disrupted or was disrupted, in the school district's mind wasn't met. So they made it unfounded. Now, the kid still said it. They're not denying the kid.
But he didn't check all the boxes.
Now, here's a problem with that. Even if you don't meet the technical requirements of HIB, there's still the code of conduct.
Correct.
Right.
That was violated. But our school district has taken the approach that if you file an HIB and you don't make the cut on the criteria, you're out of luck after that. Even if the statement that was made is validated, even though we know it was made.
So the student goes unpunished.
That parent moved his son out of the school district.
Oh, he did.
This is during the height of the Gaza war. It kind of just, and the conflict around the people talking about it or not talking about it. You know, it was a
Was
big
this
deal.
recently?
Yeah, this was
the Gaza war. Yeah, since,
around December, November.
Oh, this is, I
Since
didn't
last
see
year.
that.
Yeah. So,
That's a
you know,
shame.
I think there's a lot of work that can be done with respect to these issues, but I think we have to first acknowledge that.
But why
parents,
is the parents' fault and the student that they have to take their son away?
That's
like,
right.
why they
Well,
got to go through that?
he had that option, right? People like Miss Johnson may not.
We're not offered that option, right?
No, that he has
Right.
the money to put his
He
kid in a
has the
private.
money
Yeah,
to do it.
yeah.
There was another.
I'm in your situation. I couldn't afford to send my daughter for 20. I couldn't.
Well, there was
Private,
another
yeah.
family about that same time. This child was black, was also called a racial epithet in class. It wasn't denied. But again, the interpretation of the HIB law was, well, the class wasn't disrupted because of it. But that's not the actual interpretation. Was the victim's environment disrupted. And if you're called a racial epithet, clearly it's going to bother you if you're going to report it, right? And so I think there has to be some type of review of how our school district specifically, because I live here, is handling these things so that parents like the ones I just described.
Who do you blame all this? Who is the person who can we blame here?
Well, let me ask you a question before getting. Has Jason Bing? Have you spoken to the new superintendent?
I have.
Okay. Do you get the feeling that maybe we're on to better place with better leadership?
No, he seems very knowledgeable. I
He's
think
too new.
For me, it's kind of
I've spoken to him too.
We had a meeting. Again, the Black Parents Workshop has our settlement, and as part of the settlement, we meet with Justice Wallace, the monitor, periodically with the school districts. We had a meeting about 2 weeks ago. It was a good meeting, but again, to Ileana's point, it's kind of early.
Yeah, he's too early.
I do have confidence, and I definitely am optimistic that he's going to come in and kind of get his folks.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. I mean, I guess as we've learned in Soma, seems to be. Now, Vicky, you said you spoke to Superintendent Bing. What were your thoughts?
Well, again, I would just reinforce what you said, that it's still too early to get a sense of what's going on. You know, he acknowledged what I was saying, but of course, he doesn't have any history about what's going on.
Yeah.
First time he heard you speak was the first time he heard your name.
Right, but he knows that I will be calling him back.
Okay, good.
And I will be following up with him. And
as you should.
And I'm going to have a face-to-face meeting with him, too. But getting back to your concern, my daughter, when this happened with my granddaughter, of course, she went to school a couple of times, 3 or 4 times. She came back and told me, you can go straight through that front door or through a side door in Columbia. This is when she went, without any security. Even when we were waiting inside, once we got a meeting with them, with administration, we observed that the students are supposed to come in and they're supposed to use the scanner and scan.
Yeah.
Nothing was done. The security's at the desk, standing there talking, socializing, but the students are just walking in. So again, my point is,
you can bring anything.
A drug dealer can come in there anytime they want. Okay, right. Somebody with a bomb, somebody with a gun, because there's no monitoring. There's no real security there.
Right.
So.
Yeah, parents see this stuff all the time. They'll talk about it on Facebook.
We've seen it a couple of things.
And I think historically and again, not just this school district, but others, they tend to play down those statements. They tend to avoid addressing those concerns because I think there's a culture of, well, if we admit something, we're going to be in trouble.
Correct.
And I think most people, myself included, aren't necessarily saying if you make a mistake, you should be fired. But if you make a mistake, acknowledge it, address it, and then
fix it.
Move on.
Yeah.
I was going to ask her a question. Sorry, go back with her. Because as a mother, I feel for her. And now that I do not want my daughter to experience that, which hopefully not, but there's I wanted to ask you.
You have to be visible. You have to
be on top of your kids.
And you got to communicate, not just you got to go to the top. And not to cut you off, but yes.
No, that's fine.
They failed on so many different levels with my granddaughter. But where does it start? It starts at the top. At this time, it was the superintendent, going on down.
They always said that you got to start with the teachers and then go up.
No, half the teachers didn't even know what was going on. Okay? Start with the superintendent. I'm telling you from this experience. Okay? And also, the special education department is the worst. They don't have a clue to any of the laws with special education IEP students. They even told me that they broke the law. They said, we're not following the time frame. Right. How dare you tell me this?
They told you that you were breaking the law.
No, they're breaking the law, but not maintaining the time frame.
Right.
We're completing her reevaluations about her psychological counseling. They said all these things.
God, that's not good.
They said it verbally, of course. They didn't put it in writing, but they said it verbally.
Right.
So I'm just saying that, and I get very emotional about this because, like we were saying before, special education of all departments and students with IEPs, you should be bending over backwards for them.
Yes.
Correct.
That's why we have the IEP. These are students that have opportunity to advance and do well in life, but we're telling the schools, You got to give them the extra
Right,
whatever is required to get them over the top.
Right, and that's taken away from them. And how do you think my granddaughter feels? And that's the point.
I can imagine.
That's the point I was trying to make when I went to the board meeting. I wanted them to understand that. But again, they were just like sitting there like robots.
Yep.
That's what
So
they do.
Let me jump in because Miss Johnson, as you can see, she's no wallflower.
No.
And
As she should.
Right.
But
She has all the rights.
let me say it this way: not every
family.
parent has her confidence.
Right.
They're not able to confront people like that, and those are, by and large, most of the parents.
And she's a grandmother. Imagine the
I
mother.
deal with. But I can use this moment to kind of give some tips, right?
Yes, we need tips.
Because what I'll say is when you're confronted with a situation regarding your son, daughter, whatever, try to understand how this place is constructed in terms of, at the high school, for example, the teachers don't report to the principal. They report to their supervisor.
Oh, okay. I thought they had to.
Principal has almost no authority directly over the teachers.
The principal?
Correct.
Oh.
But most parents don't think of it that way.
Right.
No, we thought they do have the authority.
Go to the
Right.
principal and say, straighten out that teacher. And,
Right.
and
So
even if you wanted to.
For
he-
any
he might not
Soma
be able
parents
to.
out there, if you have an issue with your teacher, you need to find out who that teacher's supervisor is and start.
How do you
there.
find out about that? To the
You have to go to the
website?
website. You got to kind of dig, but it's not clearly delineated.
Okay.
Put it that way.
What? Yeah, right. They don't want you to know.
And they
don't
don't
want
want
you
it
to
to be
know.
clearly delineated for a
That's
reason.
right.
Now, after that, if you think it's a Title IX issue, if you think it's an HIB issue, make your way to the website, find the policy that you think may be pertinent to your student's issue. Peruse it, read it, digest it. If you're not a lawyer, try to find someone that understands the policies
Understands.
to help you interpret what's going on, because more than likely it's not being followed as it should. I've been told, I don't know how many times over the years of my kids being in the school district, well, this policy says X, this policy says Y. And I've gone to read the policy to say, it doesn't say that at all.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I'm an attorney by trade, yet I would never tell someone, yeah, the Civil Rights Section 235 that says this, without me going to read it first, because I don't have it memorized, right? And so I tell parents, always pressure test and scrutinize any statements about what a policy is or isn't.
Vicky, my next question, specific to every parent that has an incoming student, freshman, IEP. So your granddaughter, they target her with the hash brownie or whatnot. She gets very sick, and then afterwards they were trying to intimidate her a little bit. Well, why do you think your
Bullied.
granddaughter
She was being
We're
bullied.
bullied. Yeah,
bullied?
bullied.
Why was she bullied? Why was she targeted? Maybe it could be just that parents. Why do you think your granddaughter
Well, I
was
think
targeting these
she was
people?
definitely targeted because she came back and told.
Okay.
Afterwards, this one were the ones who gave me the brownie.
Gotcha.
So because they even again going back to your statement, they even brought in a brother of one of the students from the outside. How could he get into school?
Yeah.
He doesn't even go to. He wasn't even going.
Why would they bring a brother into this?
Because they wanted to attack my granddaughter.
So he
Was
actually
that
went in
the-
there. He actually went in there to lend a hand to the bullying.
Wait
so
a
to
second.
speak.
Is this the case that I read online that there was an out-of student coming into Columbia and started a fight? Was that this case, or that was another
That's
episode?
probably another one. That's probably.
Oh, okay, because I was like, oh my
But
God.
that gets back to security, and again, that you saying
Yes,
that people can
yes.
get in, people can get
That's
out,
right.
they can bring things in, they can bring
That's
things
right,
out.
that's
and,
right.
So right now, your granddaughter, she's we're looking at a great year. She's got a great year ahead of her. She's again, just to reiterate her current status. What are you expecting this year, and what are her future plans?
Well, again, thanks to Mr. Davis as the advocate, we are now going into a school that she's already attended for the summer, which is wonderful.
And she enjoyed it.
Yeah, so she got a
Good.
field of it.
Good.
So, of course, I explained to her this is just a little, this is not the biggie because
Yeah.
you're going to have so many other students around you. But I think it was wonderful that she was able to.
She needed a change.
She needed to interact with other students.
Good.
She was isolated.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
So she's made friends this summer.
Yes,
And,
yes, and now she's more outspoken. Now she's smiling. She wasn't
Feeling
doing
better
that.
about
She
herself.
was staying in the house. Even her mental status has improved. Where she wants to interact and talk, and this was not happening. And so we're talking about what you want to do after. This is your senior year. Where you want to go after this?
I
And
know.
this wonderful school also has like a bridge where they will help her if she wanted to go like to community college or to some type of additional secondary education afterwards. So we're really excited about it. And this particular principal, which myself, I love, he has given my daughter his cell number. If anything comes up, you can call me. Oh my God, we never had this at Columbia. They would, when you ask for that, they run the other way or they wouldn't even respond back to you. So this is wonderful because one of the biggest issues is that communication. And like I shared with Mr. Davis, it's not just, of course, I'm here for my granddaughter, but I'm here for all the other students. I'm here for all the other students and for all the other parents.
Yeah, you're sharing your story. Yes.
That have no clue that what's really going on there. And again, there's three Columbias. For those that are the rich and famous, for those that kind of don't need a whole lot of extra, support.
Right.
And then for those that fall between the cracks.
Right.
And those, most of the time, are those IEP, special education, which I have such a, compassion for that I really want to stay involved with that. And just for your information, I had two of my adult children graduate from Columbia. I had no problems. Of course, as you know, I was there.
Yeah, you were there.
I was there all the time. But I could call up the social worker, I could call up the guidance counselor, I could call up the principal and say, they would respond back to me. So why has things changed so much? That's the thing I don't want.
It has changed, apparently.
Especially since I had this personal experience in the past. So that's what I always bring up, too. I said, why? Because now you have to understand, of course, I'm not telling my age, but when my adult kids were there, it was predominantly white students. Hello. So now it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot.
I have a question for you, and you can answer this as well. Did you remember when she was at the Board of Ed, they kind of dismissed her, like, oh, you should go to this group. What was the group they were sending you?
CPAC.
How did you feel about that? Like, they told you to talk to that group, which
I did speak to the is the chairperson of the CPAC. So they're having a meeting in September, and I will be physically there.
They're like volunteers to help people with IEP. Is that what they do?
And they're parents of students with IEPs. Okay, but this time we're going to get some things changed and some action.
Oh, so you're going to be part of the committee?
Oh yes, I'm going to be part of the committee.
In another...
They don't know what they're in for.
Oh, they don't know.
About to say, James, you may have your first. Are you an attorney? Because
No.
James may be hiring.
Lee, if I ever get arrested, I'm calling Ms. Johnson first.
That's right.
I have another question.
Yes.
Last episode, we had a former auxiliary cop. His name is Sean Chalk, right? And we were talking offline, and I asked him, like, do you think we should have security in the school, like in Columbia High School? He absolutely recommended, like, absolutely. I think they should have. Do you guys agree with him?
Well, let me say this. When my adults, kids were there was security. And I brought that up to them here, the principal, Mr. Taylor, when I had my
Were they a cop or they were, like, security?
They were police.
Oh,
they were police in the morning and at the end of school.
At Columbia High School.
Right, at Columbia. No problems. Because I used to go and pick them up. No problems. With even the students. They would, have a little socialization, then they would go home. No, I mean, I'm sure they did have some issues, but not major issues like they're having now.
No. So you recommend that they should have...
Of course,
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, I actually don't agree with school resource officers or police with weapons for a number of reasons. Currently, just in terms of discipline, black students are disciplined more than others. So the byproduct to me of having a armed police officer or resource officer, whatever you want to call it, would mean that now you've put those kids in a position where someone with a gun is going to be the first interaction that they have. The other piece of it is we've all seen in the news Just recently, Sonia Massey, who was having
Yes.
maybe a mental episode. There was an Asian woman just recently who also was shot and killed by police when she was having one. When police are the first to arrive with the person having mental challenges, it seldom goes right. So we're talking about maybe kids with IEPs in a school
Of course, yeah.
who may have some behavioral challenges that they're just not able to control themselves.
And slip a drug. And
slip the drug.
God knows.
Maybe without
So-
weapons, they can be present, but without the guns.
Well, I'll say this. This is my own personal
yeah.
feeling based upon some of the things I've seen over the few short years I've been around. But there's specific training that people need to have. So, for example, the school district right now has a security, quote-unquote, team. If you see them, they look fairly young for the most part.
They're very young, true.
They're probably not paid very much.
They're not.
My question's always been, what training do they get before they can set foot on this campus? I've never been told that question. There was a security team kind of meeting with Dr. Taylor and Mr. Valls a couple years ago, and I actually asked that question. I actually Oprah'd our agreement with a security company that we were using, and it was like a 3-page document. There was nothing about training. There were no requirements around how they could comport themselves with respect to interacting with kids. And so my thing was, if you don't have the training to de-escalate, how are you going to handle a kid that maybe has special challenges you don't even understand?
That's true.
Right? And so that's my personal view of it. And I know people have some very, in terms of valid reasons for wanting police in schools and things like that. I just believe wholeheartedly that what you see happening in towns aren't necessarily the right result. And when you put it in a school situation, see, kids don't have the same rights they have on the street that they have in schools.
No.
You can search a bag in a school without probable cause. All you need is reasonable suspicion.
But in the
can't
school
search a
district where I
bag on the
work, they
street.
do check their bag. As soon as they go in, they have a table.
All you need is reasonable suspicion.
Well, they do to everyone.
Or even that.
That's just the norm, right, for your school?
And my school in Mr. North, everybody got to open their book bag.
But
The
on
middle
street,
schoolers.
But again, on the street, you have more rights as a student than you do in the school. So if you have more rights on the street than you do in the school, what can a police officer actually do to you in the school?
So when you step outside the school.
And those are my concerns with police in schools. And I know I've heard these things from certain people in town that BPW is advocating for cops in schools. Because
Yes,
That,
I
by
read
the way,
that.
ridiculous.
was on that letter was one
Yeah.
of the things that apparently, and I looked at that. I go, I don't remember us having that conversation.
I'll be honest with you. I heard about the letter before I read it.
Oh, you already had a
I think someone gave me a heads up before.
yeah, so like, hey, it's coming.
But I didn't really read it for a while because I knew I'd heard what was in it. And I've seen some of the people who wrote it.
And what did they
Ask
say
me how
to
many
you?
people actually said, hey, I stand by what I said.
I would
many?
imagine 0.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't see how anybody could stand behind that letter. That was
Wait a second. How can you sign a document and an article
horrible.
and then tell it to your face? I don't support
Now,
that.
I'm sure after this podcast, they'll come in and say, I stand by the letter.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's the thing. Are you going to stand by the fact that the very first item says BPW is not a legitimate organization?
Wow.
We were established in 2017.
I'm surprised you haven't sued them
We were
because
established
of that.
because you can't sue the school district not being a person or an entity. So if we're not a real organization,
How did you
how
do that?
in the world
You're right.
Yeah.
did the school
Number
district
one.
sign a settlement with us? How in the world they did not dismiss our case outright?
Jay, we only have a few minutes left. I have a question for you. That letter, going back to that letter again, I remember I think Ileana and I were discussing it online and with other people, and I had said, how many of these parents are because their concern was the student, how many of these parents have reached out to that family, to that student since that letter?
Let me say it like this. 0.
Because that was their concern, according to the argument they made.
I remember.
We're concerned about the student. And I said, it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like this was more about just throwing, I don't know, your competition, perhaps. I don't know why BPW, how they viewed you, but it seemed like they were that
So
seemed to be
I
the goal,
saw-
not the student.
I saw one of the signers at a local store. And I said, he actually walked up to me with his hand out. How you doing?
Yeah.
I said, I'm doing okay.
Right.
He says, good, but how you doing?
Right.
And I said, I'm doing okay.
Having a good day.
I said, but I was wondering why you would attach your name to a document with so many false statements in it,
Yeah.
knowing our history.
Right.
And this is a former Board of Ed.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And so at that point, it became a little weird.
Yeah. But still. So
But
no-
he
yeah,
still
sorry.
didn't stand by what was in it.
Did he?
It was more like,
I
well,
have no
I
option.
I was asked to debate you. And I said, debate me about what? I said, that wasn't a debatable document. That was a
No.
hit piece.
Yeah, hit piece.
So we had made plans to talk afterwards, but I had to bow out because I had another commitment.
Understood. Right.
But,
you know what?
it's a matter of if you're going to write something like that, get the facts right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Before you put it in writing.
I mean, the very first bullet was factually incorrect. And what I just told you was the honest God's truth, that we could never have filed a lawsuit and succeeded without being a legitimate Secretary of State, New Jersey entity. And yet, what did they say? We're not an entity.
James, I have one more question to
Yes.
before you for you. 7 candidates are running for the Board of Ed right
Yes.
now. Have any of these candidates reached out to you for an endorsement, or perhaps just to sit down and say, "What can I learn from you?" I think they should.
I think they should talk to you all of them,
You know,
to
this
your
is-
perspective.
There's a lot, you know, and Vicky too. There's a
Yeah,
lot they
I
can
think
learn.
they should speak to me.
Right.
That too.
There's a lot they
That's
can learn.
too. I believe.
Let me say this. I'm very happy that Ms. Johnson is going to be going to the CPAC meetings. I've had some differences with how CPAC has done or has not done things, but it's their own organization. They do whatever they want.
Of course.
But I do believe that they have a lot of influence. I just don't believe, in my opinion, they're utilizing it to the fullest extent that they can. So I'm hoping that Ms. Johnson's voice
We'll
will
push
help
the
them do
envelope
Yes,
there.
yes.
You see, she's not afraid.
No,
to
no,
talk.
not at all.
But to answer your question, the answer is no. No one's reached out to me. I've only endorsed one candidate, I think, ever,
Okay.
and not as BPW, just as an individual.
Right.
Do you know any of them that are running, the 7 candidates?
Well, I know Jeff Bennett, but that's the only one that I know. I don't know the others. Look, the qualifications to run are not a lot, kind of like our president of the United States.
Yeah.
You got to live in town.
And I don't want to make light of the role because
No.
I have never been a public official. I have advised people from time to time who are in positions similar to that. So I know how tough it can be. What I will say, however, is when you live in a town where your neighbors are your constituents, it's difficult to not have that be influential on your votes. And when you vote on something, you're not voting with the line of sight that I may not be invited to the barbecue next week because people don't agree with my vote. You are voting to either make things better for kids, protect teachers, whatever the case
All
may
the
be.
kids, not just your kid. All
Right,
the kids.
right.
Right. And I've seen too many times over the years where seemingly the influence of how a person will be treated after a vote has come up in some of the decision making, and that should never happen.
Well, I say Vicky Johnson for Board of Ed.
Me too.
I don't know how you feel about
They
that.
wouldn't know
It's
what
on a
hit 'em.
grassroots. But I'm
Oh,
serious.
my God.
I'm serious. This is, and I've said this before. The Board of Ed needs people that are concerned, people who have dealt with the issues, who understand the issues.
Yes.
So many of these, they come on. It's like you said, it's a popularity contest. They want to make friends, be invited to the barbecue, so they
Yeah.
could stand in front of a microphone and make speeches. Vicky. And James, I can't thank you guys enough for coming down. This has been very educational for me.
Very educational. Having a high schooler starting, I just everybody's God bless.
Yeah. My son struggled in high school. He had a tough time. He had an IEP.
My daughter has an IEP. That's why I feel like she might go in the cracks.
He's a bright kid. He's 25 now, doing really well career-wise. But you know what? High school was a bad time, and I wasn't as proactive as I should have been as a parent because maybe I just didn't know.
Yeah, you don't know
how to go about doing it. There was, and hopefully you've schooled some young parents on what they can expect and what they should expect and what they can do about it. So, well, we thank you for that.
I want to thank Ms.
And you
Johnson.
can call me anytime.
I'm going to have her on speed dial.
I want to thank Ms. Johnson for agreeing to come down today.
Yes, thank you.
When you asked me to come on, I really felt it was important to hear from someone that we have, in my view, successfully helped, again, in the context of what's successful. In light of what they've gone through, we've helped people in Montclair. I've got a couple of people I'm helping in California even.
So it's not just Soma. You're not just helping Soma. If there are parents out there struggling and need answers, you can call dac.com. All right, and James, he might just be able to do for you what he was able to help Ms. Johnson with.
Or at least point you in the right direction.
Exactly, point them in the right direction, correct.
That's right. All right, so Ileana, anything else, or...
I had 10,000 more questions, but you know me. I'm sure I will call you back. I'm sure we're going to invite you back.
What Ileana does after the podcast is she'll start calling me or texting me. We should have asked this. We should have said that. Why did we?
It's true.
So let's do the whole podcast again. Maybe we can. I've had that one before. Afterwards, we said, "What do you mean we just finished?" He said, "Yeah, but I don't like. Let's start over." I said, "We can't do it anyway."
It's a fascinating subject. It's a hot topic. You know how people are going through the school system. Like,
well, can I say one thing?
Yeah,
I think what we need, not just here, but as a country, I've seen too many situations where parents, highly educated or not, who have no idea what they're getting into once the special education topic comes up.
Right.
I agree.
They're asked to make decisions based upon a form. They're asked to make decisions based upon statements that they assume to be true. And I think it's overwhelming, because you don't know if you're making the wrong decision or the right decision. So just like if a person is arrested and has a right to counsel, if they can't afford one, I think out the gate, people should have an advocate to talk to. Someone who doesn't work for the school necessarily, but someone they can ask the hard questions of, who will get impartial answers.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
Not answers based upon, well, this may cost us more if we
Do we have that? Well, that's when you come in.
Required. I would like to see that. I may have to be a lobbyist at some point as well to try to get that. But I've seen too many people like yourself, Ileana, who are single parents who are trying to do the right thing by their kids and make their daily, issues kind of and face them. And just it's overwhelming. It can be very stressful as well. But if you have someone that kind of knows the system, it'll make it a lot easier. Yeah. And I don't think it's a really big ask, but takes a coordination, and so I'm hoping to.
Hey, I got Miss Johnson here.
We're going on tour.
That's right. You can call me. I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
That for all the parents that have students that are going to Columbia or any other schools in the district, please, when your child comes home, I know all of us are tired. We all have other responsibilities. Take a couple of minutes to talk to your child and say, how was your day? What was going on? Not to say, tell me everything that's going on. Just say, over dinner, over just sitting down, just talk and ask them what's going on. That is so important, especially for our special ed IEP students, okay?
Because you'll be surprised what they'll tell you.
Yes, so please, parents, please do that, okay? And the other thing I wanted to say is that just what you were talking about before, I had to go outside of the district to a psychologist that her specialty in another district, another town, is IEP. And she had to send me parts of documentations like Mr. Davis was talking about. And I had to, I had to send those to special education department and say, this is the law. This is what you should be doing. I had to do that on my own. And I thank God for the psychologist that gave me the documents with the laws, with the numbers after them, to give to just what you're saying, the special education administrators and staff, to say, no, what you said to me was not true. This is what the law says. So that's why it's so important that the parents get involved from day one, and also that they continue to communicate with their children. It's very, very important.
I agree.
Wonderful. Well, you know what? It's onward and upward. I think your granddaughter's going to have a great year. I think
pray,
you should be you should be proud of yourself, because it's not easy for a family to have to deal with these things, and you've done it. And congratulations, and good days ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Ileana.
No, thank you guys for coming.
Okay, so that's it for the Soma Talks podcast. Until next time, I'm Lee Nava with Ileana Castillo. We are again with Vicky Johnson and Mr. James Davis. We'll do it again real soon. Have a great day.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Soma Talks podcast. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. The Soma Talk podcast name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service.